Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict Podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
He picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! We'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best, here with Sterling Holmes and producer Richard. Sterling, how's it going, man?
To all the haters and losers who said I couldn't do it. Got a mic stand. Baby.
There you go.
It's not the best mic stand, but we're making it work. I'm doing all I can.
Yeah, gripping for an hour. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. That's a lot of work.
Pause. What?
Let's just move on. We've got a great show for you guys. Going to sit some Chiefs personalities down on the therapy couch and help them work some things out. So a little experimentation. You guys know how we roll on Wacky Wednesday. We are innovators here. We are always just experimenting and having some fun. So Sterling, I think it's gonna go well.
I hope so, man. I'm heading to my boy's bachelor party starting tomorrow. So let's go out with a bang.
We're going to what is it? Dollywood this weekend to meet some family friends. So yeah, let's send us off with a bang.
Was something supposed to happen there?
I think we got a Reid, right?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I thought you were like gonna play something cool. Send us off with a bang. I was figuring you're gonna have some cool little, I don't know.
I don't have the sound effects planned.
I thought you were gonna do like a cannon. Like you were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or something like that. But that's fine. We have something even better for you because DraftKings is here with a special offer for new users in a few lucky states. Get up to $300 in bonus bets. Yes, $300 in bonus bets if you live in Iowa, Illinois, Louisiana, Michigan, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Vermont, or Wyoming when you sign up with our code Arrowhead. New users in these select states can make a first bet of $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, a $10 first bet to get $200 in bonus bets, or a $50 first bet to get $300 in bonus bets. If you don't live in one of these states, no worries. We still get you covered with a $150 bonus bet with our code Arrowhead. The best part is that you'll receive your rewards instantly after placing your first bet, even if you lose. Using our code Arrowhead not only does it grant you these great bonus bets, but also directly supports our podcast. So if you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure to use the code Arrowhead to maximize your first bets. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly and check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. Also, talking with my hands is very hard when I have a mic stand here now. I got to get used to this.
Oh yeah, I feel you. Well, we're working things out. It's deep June. I think this is the first time you, me, and Richard have been together like 3 weeks or something like that. So it is the dog days of summer and a perfect time to experiment. Society has finally decided that therapy is a good thing. So it's time to probe the minds of some Chiefs personalities to see if we can help. We're calling this Chiefs Therapy Couch. Let's start off with number 15. We're going to ask some questions. And I don't know that we're actually going to act this out always, but we're going to kind of answer these questions from the perspective of the player, coach, general manager, etc., that get asked the question by the therapist. So first off, number 15 for Patrick Mahomes. The rest of the league sees you as a boogeyman. Do you ever feel guilty?
Hey, wow, what was I was trying to do a Patrick Mahomes impersonation, and what was going on? I was like Fat Albert. I was like Fat Albert,
or like an 80-year-old man. I don't know what that was.
Yeah,
I was gonna try it. I was gonna try a Freud, but you know, I just didn't have time to workshop the accents. I don't know if we should go with the accents today. Maybe just cut it out on that. This is a pretty simple no, right? I think he's a super nice guy. If you're, Patrick would say I'm a super nice guy. I'm friends with Josh Allen and a lot of the other quarterbacks, but when it comes to winning, I am the biggest cutthroat you will find in the entire wide world of sports right now. Counting the
Those
fingers.
podcast listeners, I'm counting on my fingers. Petty Pat is a real thing. He does not feel bad kicking ass. He wants every single ring, and everyone else can get second place, but those golds go to him. He doesn't give a hoot who comes in silver or bronze. Gold is what matters, and Patrick Mahomes is stacking that gold basically literally and figuratively with the amount of money he makes. Plus, let's be real, the Lombardis. So, yes, as Never Be Game Over says, table for one.
A lot of weight on his shoulders, but he handles it well. I don't know if he's in therapy or not, but it's been quite amazing to watch the way he navigates the pressure and being the centerpiece, the cornerstone of a franchise in his early to mid 20s, I guess late 20s now, but man, just impressive. Equally impressive is our next one. We're moving on to number 87, Travis Kelce. And here's the question a therapist would ask him. You're a 34-year-old tight end coming off of nonstop deep playoff runs. Are you overdoing it, spreading yourself too thin?
Why do you think that is?
Well, you're flying around the world. You're doing a podcast. You're doing all kinds of TV shows and movies. You're dating the most famous woman on the planet and trying to keep up with her tour. You've had something like 10 surgeries. And at your age, that's when even great tight ends start to slow down. So I'm just a little concerned about you.
No, he's not. This is his second win. This is like a not a midlife crisis, but this is like a rejuvenation of a football player's career. That's what I'm calling this right now. I know when anything goes wrong, he's focusing on things outside of football. But when things go right, it's also like, okay, he's also rejuvenized. Like there is stuff outside of football. This helps keep him loose. I think you can make the argument that him doing all this stuff, it makes him feel young again, right? Making him feel young again with Taylor Swift talking about him as if he's a high schooler or a college kid. Yeah, this is making Kelce feel young again. So, no, it is what it is, man. Like, we know guys do stuff outside of football. Just because he's out there and every move he makes, we see it, doesn't mean other dudes are not doing other things outside of football. Maybe they're just playing video games, but just because they're not out dating the most famous person in the world right now doesn't mean they're just studying film and grinding away. I think that's a little bit of a misconception some folks have.
Shots fired at Kyler Murray, I think is what you're saying. I agree with you.
Call of Duty shots fired.
This is a new chapter in the Travis Kelce book. It's kind of like Matthew McConaughey and the McConaissance. He's reinvented himself as an entertainer. And where most people would buckle under the weight of being famous, I think probably 9 out of 10, if not 99 out of 100 people would hate being famous. They'd enjoy the benefits of it, right? They'd enjoy the praise and all that and the riches and everything, but the spotlight and the constant, just being on all the time. Most people couldn't do it. Travis Kelce was born for the limelight. He was born to be on all the time. And I think it's given him a second wind. I think you're right. It has given him some extra juice. Now, I would say from his perspective, he's probably looking at another year of load maintenance. Like, let's get the snaps down to, we're not doing 100%, 90%, even 80%. Let's get it down to 70%. That's why we have Jared Wiley. That's why we have Noah Gray. Keep me fresh so I can go into beast mode in the playoffs. That's the end game here.
Agreed.
But I do think that this is going to be a question anytime he has an off game or if he gets, a little nicked up, that we're going to hear. And I just think it's silly. All these guys have lives. He just happens to be dating the most famous person on earth. So we hear about his life a lot more. I'm sure a lot of other Chiefs have traveled abroad and done plenty of stuff. And I don't think he's the Chief we should be worried about off the field. And let's just, with that smooth transition, talk Rashee Rice. Rashee, is football what matters most in your life?
I think yes. I think Rashee Rice, just because he's been a dumbass off the field doesn't mean that he doesn't value football. I hate how we sometimes, again, stuff that we would never do. I'm telling you right now, I'd never drive 119 and do that. Like that. That's just not who I am personally. It's also someone who doesn't really care or like cars that much. Like that's just not who I am. So it's not really in my DNA and that instinct. But we're judging him so harshly and fairly to an extent, but we're judging it if that means he doesn't like football. And that to me is a little unfair. Both can be true. You can be a dumbass off the field. Hopefully he learns from it and turns it around. And you can still love football. Like, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. I think he was excited to have a lot of money, be a Super Bowl champion back in his hometown around his guys. I think he wanted to showboat a little bit. He wanted to act like, all right, I just won as a rookie the Super Bowl. I was the best wide receiver on a Super Bowl winning team. I'm going to act like a king. Almost act like consequences are for thee, not for me. But I don't think that means that he does not care or love football. If this continues to go on, multiple more instances, then yes, I would have to agree with you. But right now, and from what we've kind of not heard, I should say, from the bar incident, right? Seemingly that's more of a miscommunication. We'll find out, but that's kind of been swept under the rug. I'm not giving him a complete free pass for what happened, but I'm not going to say that shows that football does not matter to Rashee Rice.
I think if you're Rashee, this is what you're going to say. Talk to Patrick, talk to Travis, talk to Hollywood. I've been putting in the work. And yeah, I did something stupid, but I was 23 years old. It's hard being a 23-year-old Super Bowl champion who's famous. That's a lot of pressure. I'm learning to deal with it. I dealt with it poorly, but I'm going to deal with it better going forward. And when it comes to football, I've always put in the work. Look at the way I played last season. I'm always around when the guys are doing stuff in Texas. I'm making all the mandatory, camps and everything. So until you see my play slip, don't worry about it. And my play is not going to slip. I think that's probably his mindset. I agree with you that these two things aren't mutually exclusive, because as far as him on the football field, it sounded like he had a great camp, So now he's not going to play the entire season. I mean, that's almost a guarantee. But I think lesson learned here, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Creed Humphrey. This is a fun one. What was the deal with all the low snaps last season?
Wanted to keep Mahomes on his toes. Mahomes loves baseball, and I want to see how he handled one-hoppers.
Yeah, I got to scoop up those ground balls. I think he'd probably say that I doubt if he had an injury. Creed's a tough guy. He's not going to admit it. But I think he might say something we've heard from Jason Kelce before, and that's fast, low snaps, get your hand back quicker to protect. So sometimes getting a little sloppy there, but being the best blocking center in the National Football League, that's a sacrifice we're willing to make. Andy Reid didn't seem concerned about it. My quarterback didn't seem concerned about it. So that's something we're communicating on. And is it perfect? No. Is it cosmetically appealing? No. But did it really hurt our team? Was my blocking ever suspect? No, my blocking was fantastic. So I'm going to try to clean that up next year. It got a little sloppy, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it unless it continues, which I think is the majority of the people's thought process here. I think he works on it, as Angry Drunken German says. It's not hard to work out better snaps. That'll get done. Yeah, I'm not really worried about that. I think the concern, and not even a concern, is what you alluded to early on, which is you got to get the ball back quick, because now you're going over the center. You're trying to block these massive men and more around the NFL. it's not just edge rushers, it's interior pressure, right? That's somewhat been a shift in the past 3 years, right? It was just Aaron Donald. Then it was Aaron and Chris Jones. And now there's a plethora of guys who are very good defensive tackles or edges that move inside. And that puts so much more pressure on a center versus just, okay, I got a run block. I know who I'm going up against. They're not getting pressure back me. They're not. I'm good here. When you're starting to get a lot of these, I don't want to say Fletcher Cox because he's also an older guy, but you're
Dexter
getting
Lawrence, Quinnen Williams,
and Dexter, those type of guys. Well, now it's a different situation. Now you got to make sure you get that ball back quick and your hands are up quick and you're ready to block. And I think that might be the biggest difference. I'm not worried unless it continues, but I think there's at least some understanding of how that could be the case in regards to the low snaps.
Let's segue here to another one that involves Creed Humphrey, and that's a question for Brett Veach. You have 3 very popular free agents coming up in Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, and Trey Smith. Do you feel like that's an impossible situation?
Yes. And how does that make you feel?
I think it's got to make him feel it's got to be tough. These guys have won multiple Super Bowls. And because of Chris Jones, because of Patrick Mahomes, to some extent, Juwan Taylor, right? Travis Kelce, there's quite a few big contracts going around. So there's just not cap or cash given the team's circumstances. The Chiefs aren't a team that's going to rack up a huge credit card bill. So he's going to have to choose. And I think he's going to have to probably tell Trey Smith that they just can't make it happen. Go out and get the bag elsewhere. We love you. We enjoyed our time with you. You know, you were a pivotal part of a couple of Super Bowl teams, but hopefully 3 at this juncture next year. But we just can't squeeze you in for what the market dictates you're going to get. Now, The other 2, hopefully, if I'm Brett Veach, I'm thinking hopefully I can get 2 of these 3 guys. It just depends what happens with Nick Bolton, because I think they're keeping Creed Humphrey.
Yeah, I think Creed Humphrey is the easiest. Like if you said 1, 2, 3 in odds of keeping guys, I think Creed Humphrey's 1 most likely. I think Nick Bolton's 2, and then I think Trey Smith's 3. It just comes down to the guard market. Centers don't get paid as much as guards. Creed Humphrey is a all-pro center, while Trey Smith is a very, very, very good guard, but he not all-pro, right? Might be a Pro Bowl, but not all-pro. Nick Bolton, I think, is a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker, but I think the Chiefs value his leadership, which I know we're talking some intangibles and stuff like that, but I do think there's something there. The Chiefs really do value that in their defense. I think they're going to keep 2 of the 3, and I think my best guess right now on June 26th is Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith gets paid probably 5-year, $100 million somewhere else, which is going to be great for Trey Smith. I'll be very happy for Trey Smith. I just don't think the Chiefs can even compete in the guard market come next year.
We've said this before. A Robert Hunt payday probably takes him off the table for Trey Smith. And I think there's probably part of Brett Veach that wants to get sentimental, but sentimentality is going to kill a dynasty quicker than anything. You can't get too attached. And he's let L'Jarius Sneed go. He's traded Sneed. He's traded Tyreek Hill. So I think he's shown that he's not going to get attached to any player that doesn't wear 15, 87, or 95. That's probably where the mindset is at, and rightfully so. Moving on to Charles Omenihu, who we've seen working his ass off in rehab. And the question for him is, what is driving your ferocious rehabilitation process?
The fact I've never really had a great full season in the NFL. I think it's interesting because there's this outlook of Charles that it feels like he's being doubted and he's done everything on the field and he's put up all these numbers and why hasn't he gotten paid? And my pushback is you haven't really had a full season where you've been putting up incredible numbers, and you still won't this year. It won't be a full season. I love Charles Omenihu. He's a very talented player, very good player, but you're not paying for 10 games. You're not paying for 11 games. You're paying for 17. And then if you're the Chiefs, you're really paying for 20, right? I love Charles Omenihu. I love following his progress, and I'm not doubting the man. I think he's going to come back and play some great football. But you got to understand, if you're him, you got to understand why teams aren't giving you a long-term expensive contract. Not only have you been injured, not only have you not necessarily been a full-time starter in your NFL career, you also had off-the-field issues. That's the trifecta of not getting paid a lot of money for a long-term contract. We know you're talented. The key is, can you do it for 17 to, again, 20 games into the playoffs? That's what we need to see, and we've not seen that from him so far.
Yeah, it makes sense why he's motivated, because he really hasn't put it all together yet. The upside is tantalizing. There are some pass rush win rate numbers when he goes inside that are just out of this world. He's one of the most efficient interior pass rushers in the NFL over the past 2 or 3 years. He's that good when he's on. But you're right. I mean, he's never been a guy that's putting up a large number of snaps like we've seen with George Karlaftis. So until we see that, it's really hard to give Omenihu, I think, the star treatment he's seeking. Yes. But he's going to have to come back as soon as humanly possible and put together another run like he had last year, if there's any hope of him earning a bigger contract than he got last time. And I think, unfortunately for him, he was negotiating while he was having character concerns, off the field problems. That's never going to be a negotiating place of power. So that worked against him too. But, he's already deadlifting 225 pounds. He's screaming. He looks like he's just, working out around the clock. You love to see it. But I think he's motivated for a lot of good reasons. But I also think the reasons why he's motivated, like, teams have good rationale as well. Next up is Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. There's definitely room on the couch for both of these guys. If there are 4 of them, there'd probably be room. Do you worry about your playing weight? And just for reference, Hollywood Brown is a generous 181. Do you believe that? Because I don't really. And Xavier Worthy is 172.
They're all cut. Xavier Worthy is not 172, but they're all very strong guys, right? And muscle weighs more than fat and all that, so fine. But my answer is closer to no than yes. Xavier Worthy hasn't been injured in college. It's weird that all of a sudden now the Chiefs draft him and there's this knee issue and he hasn't really done anything. Sure, that has me at least a little bit. 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 on a scale of 10 of concern. He wasn't injured in college. He was small in college and he dominated as a freshman. Like, no, I get it that there's always going to be concern for smaller builds, but it's not like big dudes in the NFL just never get injured and it's only small guys. No, it's a good mix. It's physical. It's the NFL. What it really comes down to is how do you handle soft tissue injuries more than anything else, right? Sammy Watkins was relatively big, right? And he was injured all the damn time. Deshaun Jackson, I mean, yeah, he ended up having a lot of injuries towards the end of his career, but he was in his 30s by that point. And Hollywood Brown, he has been injured a good amount. So I think honestly, I think it's more fair to ask Hollywood that than Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, at least in college, hasn't shown that yet. We'll see, but I think I'm now less concerned about playing weight than the majority of people are. Because I bet if you polled this question, I bet it'd be like 60-40 yes, and I'm more of a 60-40 no.
From their perspective, I think they just have to realize, and the team has to realize this too, that there are certain things they can't do. Tank Dell, who weighs 165 pounds, incredible player, but they threw him in on a goal line package to block last year, and he got hurt. You do not want these guys blocking. And, Xavier Worthy was not blocking at Texas. That's not something they asked their wide receivers to do a lot. And because of that, he stayed healthy. Hollywood Brown has been plagued by injuries a little bit more. Plagued is a little bit strong, but they are certainly concerned. I'm glad we've got 2 of them. How about that? I'm glad we got 2 of them because it kind of increases the odds of one of them making it to the Super Bowl or as deep in the playoffs that the Chiefs go.
Yeah, 2 of them are better than Tua Tagovailoa. Sorry, that's a really bad playoff.
But I can't disagree. But it's they're kind of our discount version of Waddle and Tyreek anyway. So maybe that makes sense. That connection makes sense. I'm trying to bail you out here. Let's just move on to Andy Reid. This is a tough one, but you have to. Big Red can handle it. Are you perhaps too loyal to players sometimes?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Marquez Valdez,
but part of that's also
Scantling,
Veach. Part of that's Veach.
McCole Hardman.
Yeah, but that's Veach more than Andy, I would have to assume. I almost want to say no. Like, he's a player's coach. Yeah, we know that. But too loyal. Like, when they went and brought in Le'Veon Bell, too loyal would have been continuously giving him snaps, right?
Well, he was new. I think the guys that have been in the building for a while, he does have some loyalty to. What I'm really referring to,
I don't know, man.
Even more than CEH, is last year, he just kept, MVS, if you look at yards per route run and targets per route run and some other metrics, MVS was putrid during the regular season. And Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney were arguably worse. And he just kept playing them. And Rashee Rice couldn't get more than, 50, 60% of snaps for the longest time. And he just stuck with those guys. And it was rewarded in the case of MVS. It wasn't with the other 2 guys. But I guess if you're a player's coach and you have the culture that the Chiefs have, and he has the cachet in the locker room that he has, you err on the side of caution, and you'd rather be too loyal than disloyal.
Yeah, again, a lot of the names I was coming up with early on were not even necessarily his call. Like you maybe say with the coaching staff with like Bob Sutton. Yeah, Sorensen or Anthony Hitchens or those guys. That's defense. That's not really him.
That's Spags with Sorensen, right?
Yeah, and also Bob Sutton and maybe keeping guys on too long. But no, I think loyalty overall for Andy has played off way better than, it's 2 ways because Bill Belichick was almost the opposite, right? It was very transactional, it seemed like. And both might be the 2 best head coaches of all time.
The
top
reason
5. Easy top 5.
Yeah, easy top 5, probably Mount Rushmore, or in the argument for the coaching Mount Rushmore. The reason I'm going to say that he's not too loyal is that Andy Reid has the toughest training camps in football. And the reason he can do that is he has enormous buy-in from his players that other franchises and other head coaches don't have. So I think that's a real advantage. And Andy Reid at this point knows what he's doing as well as anybody. I think it's fair to question him after some of the things we've seen, but I'll give him a pass. I think he's doing the right thing here. Another coach, Andy Heck. Deep down, who would you prefer to win the left tackle battle? Wanya Morris or Kingsley Suamataia?
The answer is Kingsley, because I think we all say he's the future left tackle. I love Wanya Morris, but I view him as the future right tackle when Juwan's gone. I think he's maybe better this year than Kingsley Suamataia at left tackle. If you were to say all things equal, at least early on, I think he takes a big step forward. But I think if you see Kingsley Suamataia win the left tackle battle, that means he's earned it and he looks damn good as a rookie. That to me would be very, very impressive. So I think for that matter, I'll go with Andy Heck saying it's the best case scenario if Kingsley wins the LT battle.
I think he'd be diplomatic about it if you gave him true serum, right? What he would probably say is, I want them both to flourish. I want Kingsley on the left side. I want Wanya to be so good that we're able to walk away from Jawan Taylor and save a bunch of money that we can spend elsewhere. and have two young bookends for the foreseeable future for Patrick Mahomes. Now, that is a best case scenario, but Andy Heck, he's one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. I mean, probably Bill Callahan, who was with Cleveland and is now with his son in Tennessee, is probably the best, but Andy Heck is up there. So if anybody can make the right call here and get both these guys going, it is Andy Heck. So I think he's probably has high hopes for both of them. Maybe Wanye Morris is the odd man out or is a good swing tackle. But I think having depth there, and they'll probably add another veteran. I don't know if it's David Bakhtiari. We've heard some rumblings. These are good problems to have. Next up is Felix Anudike Uzoma. Were you frustrated by your lack of playing time last season? And are you now ready for a starring role?
Well, he'd say yes. But I think deep down we all knew it was going to be a redshirt year either way, which made a lot of fans upset, saying, why would you spend a first rounder? And I don't want to get into that whole conversation because it feels like you're just talking in circles at that point. I think FAU takes a pretty big step forward this year. I'm not saying he's going out and getting you 10 sacks, even 8 sacks, anything like that. But I think FAU takes a pretty noticeable step forward this year. I still think there's value in him as a player for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he'll be ready to go. Like, I'm actually not too worried about him all of a sudden coming out and being a complete dud, which I think, again, puts me somewhat alone in that camp. Again, not saying he's going to be a stud, but I think you're going to see him be a useful player this year, a solid player this year. And again, maybe he's going to keep some snaps when Charles O comes back. That would be ideal.
I think for Chiefs Kingdom, there's a little bit of PTSD here, right? You think back to Ryan Sims and Tyson Jackson and Glenn Dorsey and Breland Speaks. There's reason to be pessimistic about defensive linemen who are slow out of the gate. This is a different situation. He's on a line with Charles Omenihu. He's on a line with Chris Jones and George Karlaftis and Mike Dana. Really good players, a really good quartet there. And I think he would say, yes, I'm a player. I'm highly motivated. I want to be on the field. However, would I rather be in Denver getting my ass kicked, or would I rather be home in Kansas City winning a Super Bowl in my rookie year, learning from Chris Jones, learning from George Karlaftis, learning from one of the best coaching staffs in the league, great defensive coaching staff? I think it's an easy choice. Kansas City is a great place to be for him. The jury's still out. Like, he's got plenty of time. Now we need to see something this year, but I don't think he needs to be a star this year. We just need to see him participate a little bit more and make some things happen.
Quick comment from Trey. I see Sterling better rookie year, Ladd McConkey or Xavier Worthy. Appreciate the question there, Trey. I think Ladd McConkey has a better number year than Xavier Worthy. I don't think it's going to be a shock to anyone who's heard me talk about the two players. I'm not saying Ladd McConkey's a better player than Xavier Worthy. That's not my thought. That's not what I'm getting at right now. Ladd McConkey is like the only wide receiver for the Chargers. It's Quentin Johnston and him. And Adam, Best, and myself, we're not super high on Quentin Johnston. Ladd McConkey's basically wide receiver one for that team that's going to throw the ball a lot with Justin Herbert. Xavier Worthy, on the other hand, as much as I like him in this system, I think he's a better fit overall than Ladd McConkey, right? I do think he fits the system a little better than Ladd would. He's going to be behind Travis Kelce, be behind Hollywood Brown, and Rashee Rice is out there, be behind Rashee Rice. He's a rookie in an Andy Reid system, so no matter how talented and how good he is, that first half of the year ain't going to probably be used a ton, at least the way we would like, which means we'll probably see more Justin Watson than we would all prefer, which, again, leads me to say I think Ladd McConkey has a better number year than Xavier Worthy. If you're in a fantasy football league, I would draft Ladd McConkey fairly high, Xavier Worthy pretty low this year.
Yeah, barring injuries, you just look at the target ladders. And who does Ladd McConkey have to beat out? Well, Quentin Johnston, who we're not high on, maybe he turns things around, but his rookie year wasn't good. And then Joshua Palmer, who's sort of an average starter, just a guy. So
he's Justin Watson almost.
Yeah, he could pretty quickly be their wide receiver one. And if you look at the ladder, like you said, that Xavier has to climb, man, it's going to be hard for him to be any more than the fourth favorite target in this offense. And that depends on Isaiah Pacheco too. If Isaiah Pacheco becomes even more of a target out of the backfield, he could be, the fifth option. Just food for thought there, because McKinnon isn't back on the roster. And we saw a leap for Pacheco from year 1 to year 2 as a receiver. And let's go ahead and, get Isaiah Pacheco on the couch since we're talking about him. Do you run into contact too much? Are you risking your health unnecessarily?
No, it's the state of the running back market. It's the state of how running backs are paid, and it's the state of running backs in general. You got to do it. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the most elusive guy. He's a physical guy.
He is pretty fast, though.
No. Yes, they're all very fast, but it's not Chris Johnson or Jamal Charles out there. But that's the point I'm trying to make is if he had a calling card, it's the physicality, the tone setter. It's the he's going to try and run into you and carry you for an extra yard or two. That's what separates him, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't do that, where does he fall in as a running back in the landscape of the NFL? That's what he does best. What he does best is the physicality. So if he takes that away, is he just an average guy now? Is he just a dude? I don't know. Maybe he's still just as productive. But that, to me, is what Pacheco does that separates him. Does he take some unnecessary hits? Yes. Would I like to see him maybe sit down on the ground 1 second longer before popping up? Also, yes. But some of the physicality he brings is what gets the guys going, what gets the offensive line going, gets his teammates going. I think there's something to that. Again, a game's not played on just paper, right? It's not just an Excel spreadsheet. There's something to the emotion of the game. And when Pacheco's out there, the emotion is what he also brings to the field. I think at times maybe it can be viewed as some unnecessarily physicality that he brings, but also I think it's what he almost needs to do to keep himself on the field and keep that starting role that he has in Kansas City.
And, you can't ask a Tiger to change his stripes. He's always on. That's just part of it, who he is. That's his personality. He's just always up, up, up. And I think there are some stats here that kind of point towards him not running into contact too much. He was 11th in breakaway run rate percentage-wise last year, and he's 20th in missed tackles forced, right? Not crazy numbers, but respectable for a guy that runs like he runs. And to kind of back up your point, track-wise, you look at his 40-yard dash, he beat Breece Hall. He is really fast, but we haven't seen that speed, that long speed, translate to the field yet. He's not ripping off 60, 80, 50-yard runs. It's just not happening. It's not really the way he plays. I don't know if it's a vision thing or, he's slower in pads. But the only thing that worries me here is if you look at historically guys that play like this, and I'm not going to put the Nigerian nightmare in this category because he's just a freak of nature. He's more like Derrick Henry or something. But if you look at similar players, Ahmad Bradshaw, Marion Barber, guys that ran like he runs, and a little bit Marshawn Lynch would be probably a good outcome for this. A lot of times they don't have long, illustrious careers, but from Pacheco's standpoint, from Pop's standpoint, he's made it to 2 Super Bowls, and he's been a pivotal part of those Super Bowl victories. So I think he's holding up, right? But you hate to see the surgeries and the missed games and whatnot.
Sure. I mean, again, it's basically what would Ahmad Bradshaw be without the physicality? A backup running back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He's really fun to watch. I'll give him that. Pacheco is one of the more fun players to watch in Kansas City that we've had some time. Let's finish up here with couples therapy. Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams. Now that L'Jarius Sneed is gone, which one of you has the best chance to fill his shoes?
Oh, Josh Williams. I'm all in on Joshua Williams this year. I think Jalen Watson is a really good CB3. I do. I think Jalen Watson is a good CB3. I think any team would love to have Jalen Watson as a CB3, and I think he could be on the cusp of a CB2. I see Joshua Williams being a legit CB2 this year. The size, the strength, the physicality. I actually think he's been more consistent than people want to give him credit for, because I think when he came out of college, it's kind of how Trevor Lawrence gets the boost for being a 1-1 draft pick and great in college and in high school. Everyone just assumes he's phenomenal in the NFL. He's good. He's not phenomenal. You look at Josh Williams. He came out of, what was it, Jacksonville State, right? Was it Jacksonville State?
I thought it was Fayetteville.
It was Fayetteville State. I was about to say that, and I stopped myself. Small school. It was all upside. He's actually been a guy who's been damn consistent. He really has. Last year, I thought he was good in coverage. I like Jalen Watson a lot, and obviously to take into account the labrum last year he played through, so maybe that gives him some room. But we all thought it was going to be Watson with the consistency and Williams with the upside. It's kind of been the opposite, right? Williams has been more consistent, and Jalen Watson's been the guy who's been a little bit more boom or bust with the pick six and the interceptions, and also maybe getting burnt a little more than Williams. We kind of have to change our judgment and not just go off of what we saw when they were coming out of college, but where they are right now. I like Williams. I'm all in on him being CB2.
Yeah, you were talking about anchoring, and I think that's a real phenomenon with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. People still treat him like a generational quarterback, and I just don't think that's in the cards for him anymore. But Joshua Williams was 10th among all cornerbacks in yards per coverage snap last season. He only played 230 snaps, but that's still a very promising sign. For me, this is a trick question. I would like them to split snaps 50-50, and I have a pretty good reason for this. I think both of them have a trump card, and it's that they are extremely physical, big, athletic corners who can press you into oblivion. And I think if you keep them fresh and you rotate the two of them against someone like A.J. Brown or Justin Jefferson, they can make their night miserable. So maybe what they did last year where they're splitting time, maybe that's why Joshua Williams was so efficient. Maybe you don't need to pick one. Perhaps they can both play and you just stick with what has worked. You put Shamari Connor in the slot. You have Trent McDuffie outside, and you just rotate these guys too. And you can kind of go with the hot hand too. If one of them's struggling against a certain matchup, you can try the other guy. I kind of like it. It's not the most usual way for teams to do things, but stuff like this does happen. Rotations.
No, I'm actually with you. I mean, it's a very good call. I think when it's all said and done this year, my dream scenario again is they both just elevate and they have a hard time, but then you can mix and match, and maybe it's like Josh Williams 60% of the snaps and Jalen Watson 40, right? And let's be real now, it's a long season, a lot of games, injuries happen. I think you're happy with both, though, either way. I think you're comfortable with both either way, which goes to the depth, the development, again, a 4th rounder and a 7th rounder. Very impressive with scouting, development, and implementation of these guys.
Yeah, I think if Dave Merritt's going to have another hit here in the defensive backfield, it's probably going to be Josh Williams, but you hit on the labrum. Jalen Watson was better as a rookie, especially in the playoffs, so maybe we'll see a resurgence from him, but we'll have to just wait and see. That's all we've got for you guys. It's officially closing time. Props to our chat and members. We appreciate you guys. Subscribe to the AA podcast anywhere you can. You can subscribe here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. That way you never miss a show. Join us next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. Until then, go Chiefs.